This is part 4 of the video lecture that addresses essential question 3. What intellectual influences shaped the development of American political philosophy, and in what ways were they shaped? We have now reached the Age of Enlightenment. The Age of Enlightenment occurred between approximately 1650 and 1800 AD. But let's just take a minute and put all these different ages and times into perspective. If we make a timeline, I just love timelines, 1400, 1500, 1600, 1700, 1800. Then from 1400 to 1700 is the Italian Renaissance. And then from 1500, 1514-ish to about 1650, we have the Protestant Reformation. And from about 1650 to 1800, we have the Age of Enlightenment. Okay, so the Italian Renaissance overlaps both of these other two ages. And just another little bit of perspective, 1492, right here, Christopher Columbus sailed the ocean blue. 1620, about right here, Mayflower Compact was formed when the Pilgrims landed in Massachusetts. And 1776, about right here, is when the United States declared independence. All right, so the Age of Enlightenment. The Age of Enlightenment is also known as the Age of Reason. And if you remember, when we talked about philosophers, we said reasoning is a certain kind of thinking. It is thinking that is logical and coherent. And so this is when most of our political philosophers did their writings, was during the Age of Enlightenment. The Age of Enlightenment, the definition of that is, it was an approach to life based on the belief that human reason, human thinking that is logical and coherent, could be used to combat ignorance, superstition, and tyranny, and to build a better world. And it's important to realize that this was in addition to, or even as opposed to, divine revelation. Up until this point, the Christian church had pretty much run everything in Western civilization. And people depended on the church to tell them what to do. And this was a time when people started thinking for themselves and building up ideas for themselves. And it's hard to describe just how radical that idea was, that people could think for themselves. But anyway, let's take a look at our philosophers that wrote and influenced the founders during the Age of Enlightenment. First, we have John Locke. We've already talked about him. In 1689, he wrote his second treatise on government. And he had two big ideas. He had the idea that all people have natural rights. And he said those rights are life, liberty, and property. And another thing that he said that we haven't talked about very much is that along with those rights, the right of liberty means that people have the right to throw off government which fails to protect their individual rights. So the right to throw off government which fails to protect their individual rights. Both of these ideas are going to be very, very important in the writing of the Declaration of Independence.